Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with one of the great truths of life. You don't get in life what you want, you get in life what you are. That may sound simple, but don't let the simplicity fool you. It is one of the most powerful ideas you will ever learn. Most people spend their lives chasing results, more success, more money, more recognition. But very few take the time to become the kind of person those results are naturally attracted to. And that, my friends, is where the whole game begins. Not with wishes, not with goals, but with identity. See, your self-image works like a thermostat. You can turn up the heat of motivation, get excited for a while, read a new book, watch a new video. But if the thermostat is set low, it won't be long before your life cools right back down to where it's always been. But here's the good news. When you change the setting, you change the whole room. When you upgrade your self-image, your habits rise to meet it. Your decisions rise to meet it. And your results slowly at first, then unmistakably begin to reflect that new standard. Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever noticed how two people can get the same advice, the same opportunity, even the same amount of time in a day, yet one moves ahead and the other stays stuck? What's the difference? It's not the advice. It's not the opportunity. It's not the hours. The difference is who they think they are when they hear the advice. One says, this is for me. The other says, this isn't who I am. And in that moment, identity wins. Identity always wins. So today we're going to explore one of the most valuable skills you could ever develop. How to build a self-image so strong, so disciplined, so aligned with your highest potential that success doesn't just happen by accident. It becomes your natural direction. Not something you chase, but something you attract by the person you become. Because remember this, you can sign up for success, but until you sign up for self-transformation, life will keep handing you the same results. Desire alone cannot carry you across the finish line. Identity carries you. And when the identity is right, when you truly see yourself as capable, disciplined, worthy, valuable, your actions follow, your habits follow, and eventually your future follows too. This session is not about pretending, and it's not about hype. No. This is about building the kind of internal structure, brick by brick, belief by belief, that gives you the strength to stand tall in a world that constantly tries to shrink you. Today, we're going to adjust the thermostat. Today, we're going to decide who you must become so that success has no choice but to cooperate with your life. Let's begin. Now, my friends, let's move into one of the greatest laws of personal development, the law that separates the dreamers from the achievers. And it goes like this. Before you can have, you must become. Not the other way around. Not have first, become later. That formula never works. Life is built on the law of becoming. You must become the kind of person who naturally attracts the things you want. See, most people live in reverse. They say, if I had more money, I'd be more disciplined. No, life doesn't work that way. You get the money after you become disciplined. Someone says, if I had more opportunities, I'd become more valuable. Again, no. Opportunities don't go to those who want them. They go to those who are ready for them. To the person who has become valuable. This is one of the great lessons my mentor taught me early on. He said, Jim, don't wish for things to be easier. Wish for you to be better. And that single sentence changed the course of my life. Because it taught me the truth. Results don't improve until the person improves. You don't get what you want, you get what you prepare for. You get what you qualify for. And you qualify by becoming. Identity is the cause, results are the effect. Your habits, your income, your discipline, your relationships, they're all reflections of who you believe yourself to be, not who you say you are. Who you really think you are. Deep down, when no one's watching. When you're left alone with your own thoughts. Now, let me give you a simple picture. Imagine planting a seed of corn. Would you stand over it shouting, come on, apple tree, grow, grow? Of course not. Corn produces corn. Apples produce apples. Identity produces results. You can't plant a weak identity and expect strong results. You can't plant the seed of procrastination and expect the harvest of productivity. Life doesn't play that game, and neither should you. So let's simplify this law. because the great truths are always simple. If you want more, become more. If you want different, become different. If you want success to rise, identity must rise first. Results never outgrow the person who produces them. And here's the beautiful part. Becoming is a choice. It's a daily choice, not a talent, not a gift, a choice. You can choose to become wiser. You can choose to become more disciplined. You can choose to become more intentional, more valuable, more capable, and every time you choose to become, life responds. Identity first, action second, results third. That's the order of life. And when you respect the order, success becomes predictable. Now that we understand the law of becoming, it's time for something equally important, an honest inventory of the identity you already carry. Because before we build the new you, we must meet the current you face to face. Now, my friends, before we start building the new you, the stronger you, the wiser you, the more disciplined you, we must do something most people never do. Something uncomfortable, something powerful. We must take an honest inventory of the person you are today, not the person you pretend to be, not the person you post online, but the person you are when the noise dies down and the mirror tells the truth. Because here's a fundamental Jim Rohn principle. You cannot change what you are unwilling to confront. And most people go through life avoiding this confrontation. They run from the mirror. They bury themselves in entertainment. They hide behind busyness. But the problem with avoiding the truth is simple. It doesn't go away. It waits for you. And the longer you avoid it, the more expensive the consequences become. So let's begin the inventory with a simple set of questions. Questions that every leader, every achiever, every person committed to growth must answer. How do you talk to yourself? Because the conversation you have with yourself is the conversation that shapes your actions. If you call yourself weak, don't be surprised when you act weak. If you call yourself inconsistent, don't be shocked when inconsistency shows up. Your life always rises or falls to the level of your own self-talk. What standards do you accept? Human beings don't get what they want, they get what they're willing to tolerate. If you tolerate laziness, you'll get laziness. If you tolerate excuses, you'll get excuses. But if you raise the standard even just a little, your life must adjust to match it. What do you believe you deserve? This one is big. You can earn more skills, more knowledge, more opportunities, but if your self-worth is low, your results will shrink back to match what you think you deserve. Success is not just about capability, it's about capacity. The inner capacity to receive good things without sabotaging them. What excuses do you repeat? Jim Rohn used to say, don't kid yourself. You can't talk your way out of what you behave your way into. So let's list the excuses. I'm too tired. I don't have time. I'm not ready. I'll start next week, and then let's see them for what they are. Stories that protect your comfort at the cost of your progress. Now here's a little exercise I call the mirror test. And I warn you, it's simple, but not easy. Ask yourself, if my results were my employee, would I give them a raise or would I fire them? Would I follow myself if I were the leader? Because leadership begins with self-respect and self-respect begins with truth. But here's the good news. This inventory is not about judgment. It is not about guilt, and it is not about shame. It's about awareness. And awareness is the first step to power. When you shine light on the truth becomes something you can work with, shape, improve, and transform. I often say, if your garden is full of weeds, don't cry about the weeds, pull them. And this inventory, this is where you notice the weeds. This is where you see which habits are working for you and which are working against you. This is where you discover which beliefs are building your future and which are breaking it. Before we design the new identity, we first understand the old one, because the clearer you are about where you stand today, the more powerfully you can move toward who you're meant to become tomorrow. And now that the truth is on the table, we can begin the real work. Designing the blueprint of the person you intend to become. Now that we've taken inventory, now that we've looked honestly at where you are today, it's time for one of the most exciting parts of personal development, and that is design. Because the greatest gift ever given to a human being is the ability to design their own future. Animals don't get that privilege. The seasons don't get that privilege. But you and I, we do. And the only question is, will you design your life or will you drift into it? My mentor told me something years ago that I never forgot. He said, Jim, don't start the day until you've finished it on paper. What a powerful idea. But let me take it one step further for you today. Don't start your future until you've designed the person who's going to live in it. Before results change, the person must change. Before circumstances shift, character must shift. Before life becomes better, the one living it must become better. So let's build the blueprint, not the wish list, not the fantasy, but the blueprint of your upgraded identity, the character of the person success is drawn to. Let me give you the first step. Define the traits of the person you intend to become. Not the traits you wish you had, but the traits you are committed to building. Ask yourself, if the strongest version of me walked into the room right now, what would they look like? How would they think? How would they speak? How would they act when nobody is watching? Do they wake up on time? Do they keep their promises? Do they lead with discipline instead of emotion? Do they invest in themselves every day? Write those traits down. All of them, because clarity is the architect of identity. Next step, build your standards. Life doesn't rise to your goals, it rises to your standards. And a standard is not what you want. It's what you refuse to live below. Maybe your standard becomes, I always finish what I start. I never break a promise to myself. My word is stronger than my mood. I don't negotiate with laziness. These statements become the rails that guide your behavior. They keep your identity on track when temptation tries to pull you off course. Then we move to something even deeper. Your rules. Rules are the commitments that turn intentions into identity. Rules like, I read 20 minutes a day, no exceptions. I move my body every day, rain, shine, or excuses. I create more than I consume. I practice discipline at least once a day on purpose. These rules don't restrict you, they free you. They free you from inconsistency. They free you from negotiation. They free you from the tug of war between who you are and who you want to be. Now let's talk about values. Values are the foundation of identity. If your values are clear, your decisions are easy. If your values are fuzzy, your life is chaotic. So ask yourself, what do I want to stand for? What do I want people to feel when they interact with me? What do I want to be known for when my name is mentioned? And then you write it. Because writing crystallizes thinking. And thinking shapes behavior. And behavior shapes destiny. Finally, we practice one of the most misunderstood tools in the world, visualization. But not the magical kind, no. Not the close your eyes and hope kind. I'm talking about the Jim Rohn kind. Mental rehearsal. Seeing the future you and practicing being that person before life demands it from you. Let me tell you, I became a millionaire first in my philosophy, long before I became one in my bank account. I upgraded the way I thought, the way I dressed, the way I walked, the way I spoke. I became the person capable of wealth. And then the money came to meet that identity. Your future self is already waiting for you. The question is, will you design them? Or will you let the world design them for you? And once the design is clear, once the blueprint is written, the next step is to place this new identity in an environment that supports it, strengthens it, and calls it higher. Because even the most beautifully designed blueprint must be built on the right soil. Now that we've drawn the blueprint, now that you've written the character you intend to become, it's time to talk about one of the most underestimated forces in personal development, your environment. And let me tell you, if you want to change your life, you must understand this truth. Environment is stronger than willpower. You can have the best goals, the strongest intentions, the most beautiful blueprint, but if you plant a great seed in poor soil, you will still get a poor result. The seed is not enough. The soil matters. And your environment is the soil in which your identity grows. You've heard me say it many times. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Not because you copy their behavior intentionally, but because identity is contagious, standards are contagious, attitudes are contagious. If you surround yourself with people who complain, you will complain. If you surround yourself with people who blame, you will blame. If you surround yourself with people without discipline, your own discipline will quietly dissolve. Let me give you something to consider. If you spend enough time with someone who has high standards, eventually you will raise yours. If you spend enough time with someone with low standards, eventually you will lower yours. It works both ways. The question is, which way is your environment pulling you? Let's break this into 3 forces. 1, the people around you. The first force is people. Every person in your life is either pulling you up, pulling you down, or keeping you exactly where you are. Some people inspire you, challenge you, sharpen you. Others drain you, distract you, diminish you. And you must decide who belongs in the next chapter of your life and who only belonged in the previous one. Now, this doesn't mean abandoning people. It means choosing influence wisely. Don't cut people out of your life. Just limit the influence of those who weaken your standards. And increase the influence of those who call you higher. As I often say, don't join an easy crowd. You won't grow. Go where the expectations are high and the pressure to improve is strong. 2, the information you consume. The second force is your input, what you listen to, read, watch, and absorb. If you want to know where your life will be in 5 years, look at what you're feeding your mind today. Because your mind can't produce beyond what you plant. Garbage in, garbage out. Wisdom in, wisdom out. Every book you read, every video you watch, every conversation you participate in is a vote for the identity you're building or the identity you're destroying. Let me give you a little assignment that changed my life. Turn your car into a mobile university. Most people listen to noise in the car. You listen to ideas, principles, strategies. Do that for a year and watch how your identity transforms. 3, the places you spend your time. The third force is your physical environment, your room, your office, your phone, your desk. You can't build a disciplined identity in a chaotic environment. Order is not just a habit, it's a message to your mind. And the message is, my life is structured, my time is valuable, my environment supports my goals. Clean your room, not because someone told you to, but because leaders create environments that reflect their intention. Organize your workspace not as decoration, but as discipline. Remove the clutter, not for aesthetics, but for clarity. Small changes create big messages. And identity is shaped by repeated messages. Now let me connect all 3 forces with one powerful idea. Your environment should make your future self feel at home, not your old self. If your environment encourages old habits, you will stay old. If your environment encourages new standards, you will rise. So today, make one decision. Upgrade your circle. Upgrade your inputs. Upgrade your space. And your identity will rise to meet the environment that surrounds it. Because once your environment supports the person you're becoming, the daily discipline of becoming that person becomes 10 times easier. Now that your environment is ready, we move to the next great step, daily self-leadership, acting as the future you before the world ever sees it. Now, my friends, once the environment is prepared, once the soil is right, it's time for the daily work. And this part is crucial because becoming the person you're meant to be isn't a moment. It isn't a mood. It's not a sudden burst of motivation. No. Becoming is a daily act of leadership. And the first person you must learn to lead is you. Most people are waiting for transformation to strike like lightning. But lightning is unpredictable. Leadership is deliberate. And I want you to remember something I learned early in my own journey. The best time to act like the person you want to become is right now before the results show up. You don't wait for confidence to appear before you speak boldly. You speak boldly and confidence follows. You don't wait for discipline before you build habits. You build habits and discipline follows. You don't wait for success to feel like a leader. You lead and success follows. See, identity isn't something you wait for. Identity is something you practice. Let me give you a simple picture. Imagine a sculptor standing before a block of marble. The masterpiece is already in the stone, but the sculptor must chisel day after day to reveal what's inside. That's daily self-leadership. You chip away at the old you so the new you can emerge. And here's how it works in practical terms. 1. Start each morning with intention. Don't begin the day by reacting. Begin by directing. A few minutes of intention can save you from a whole day of distraction. Ask, what would the future me choose today? How would the disciplined me act? What would the leader in me do first? This is how you place identity in the driver's seat. 2. Give yourself one daily discipline challenge. Just one. Not 10. One. Jim Rohn called these small disciplines. A small discipline practiced daily becomes a giant advantage over time. Maybe it's making your bed. Maybe it's drinking water first thing. Maybe it's reading 10 pages. Maybe it's the workout you don't want to do. It's not the size that matters. It's the consistency. Because every time you practice discipline, you cast a vote for the identity of a disciplined person. 3. Do one thing every day that builds your value. Success doesn't respond to desire, it responds to value. And value is something you build, not something you wish for. So every day, ask, what did I do today to become more valuable? Learn a skill. Practice your craft. Study your field. Improve your communication. Serve someone with excellence. If you do this every day, even in small amounts, the marketplace will feel your transformation long before you do. 4. Don't let your mood decide your day. One of the greatest lessons I ever learned was this. You cannot trust your emotions to build your future. Your emotions will lie to you. They will tell you you're too tired, too busy, too discouraged, too distracted. But remember, your old identity is the one speaking. It doesn't want to lose control. So what do? You lead anyway. You follow your values instead of your feelings. Leaders don't act because they feel good. Leaders act whether or not they feel good. That's maturity. That's character. That's self-leadership. 5. Keep your promises to yourself. This one builds more self-respect than almost anything else. Every time you promise yourself something and follow through, you strengthen your identity. And every time you break that promise, you weaken it. So start with promises you can keep. I will read 10 pages. I will exercise for 20 minutes. I will spend 5 minutes reflecting. Then keep them day after day. Promise after promise. Before long, you won't just be building habits, you'll be building trust in yourself. And self-trust is the foundation of a powerful identity. 6. End the day with reflection. Every evening, take a few minutes, just a few, and ask, what did I do today that matched the future me? What did I do today that belonged to the old me? What will I do differently tomorrow? Reflection turns experience into wisdom, and wisdom turns you into the person you are becoming. My friends, daily self-leadership is not glamorous. It's not loud. It doesn't go viral, but it works quietly, consistently, powerfully. Every day you lead yourself as the future you. You step 1 inch closer to a life where your identity and your results finally match. And now that we've built these daily practices, it's time to work on something even more foundational. Your inner dialogue, the voice inside that shapes your future long before the world ever sees it. Now, let's talk about one of the most important parts of building a powerful self-image. Because long before you take action, long before you build habits, long before the world sees your transformation, something else happens first. Something quiet, something internal. Your inner dialogue begins shaping your identity. Let me tell you something I learned decades ago. The most influential voice in your life is the one you hear in your own mind. Not the critics, not the doubters, not even your friends, but you. And here's the challenge. Most people have never taken control of that voice. They let it run on autopilot. They let old fears, old failures, old stories dictate the script. And the problem with that is simple. If the voice inside you is small, your life will be small. Your inner dialogue can be your coach or your enemy. It can lift you or limit you. It can push you forward or pull you down. And you must decide who gets to run your mind. Now let me give you something to think about. Inside every person, there are two voices. One voice says, I can. The other whispers, I can't. One says, try. The other says, what if you fail? One says, you're capable. The other says, you're not ready. And here's the great secret. The voice you feed becomes the voice you follow. So let's talk about how to train that inner voice, how to give it strength, clarity, authority. 1. Replace self-criticism with self-instruction. Most people speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to someone they care about. They say, I'm lazy, I'm undisciplined, I'm not good enough. But let me teach you something powerful. Your mind believes what you repeat. So instead of criticizing yourself, instruct yourself, not I'm lazy, but I'm practicing discipline. Not I can't do this, but I'm learning to do this. Not I always fail, but I'm improving every day. This subtle shift changes your identity from the inside out. 2. Speak to yourself like a leader speaks to a team. If you led a team and your team made a mistake, you wouldn't scream, you're useless, would you? No, you would correct them, encourage them, redirect them. So talk to yourself the same way, with clarity, with firmness, with belief. Tell yourself, we're capable, we will improve, we're not finished yet, we're becoming stronger by the day, because leadership always begins within. 3. Guard your mind like a fortress. Your mind is precious real estate, and every thought that enters is either building your future or tearing it down. Jim Rohn used to say, stand guard at the door of your mind. Don't let every fear, every doubt, every worry stroll in uninvited. You decide what thoughts are allowed. You decide what gets to stay. You decide what gets evicted. If a thought weakens you, throw it out. If a thought strengthens you, feed it. If a thought distracts you, replace it. If a thought inspires you, protect it. Your mind is the control center of your life. Don't give the controls to anyone or anything that diminishes you. 4. Use the garden metaphor every day. Let me repeat a metaphor that has served me and millions very well. Your mind is a garden. If you don't plant flowers, weeds will grow automatically. You never have to plant weeds. They appear on their own. But flowers require intention. So plant what you want to grow. Plant confidence. Plant discipline. Plant courage. Plant gratitude. Plant the identity you desire. Do that every day, and your inner world becomes a place where your new identity can thrive. 5. Give your mind an assignment. Each morning, a mind without instruction becomes a wandering mind. A wandering mind becomes a distracted mind. And a distracted mind becomes a defeated mind. So each morning, assign your mind a direction. Today we focus on progress. Today we practice discipline. Today we act like the person we're becoming. Intention gives your thoughts an anchor, and anchored thoughts create powerful behavior. 6. Speak about yourself with respect. Let me give you a simple rule. Never speak disrespectfully about yourself, not even as a joke. Your subconscious mind doesn't understand humor. It takes every word as instruction. So talk to yourself with respect, with dignity, with expectation. Say things like, I'm capable of growth. I'm worthy of success. I'm becoming stronger. I'm building discipline. I'm preparing for opportunity. Because your mind listens to you. And what you say, it believes. 7. Strengthen your inner identity before you strengthen your outer results. You'll know your inner dialogue is transforming when problems no longer shake you the same way. When criticism doesn't break you. When fear doesn't lead you. When challenges don't define you. And when you begin to respond with clarity instead of reacting with chaos. That is the sign of a strong inner identity. That is the inner victory that must come before the outer one. And once your inner voice is strong, something magical happens. The world begins to respond differently to you. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Now that your inner dialogue is trained and your identity is being shaped from within, it's time for something extraordinary. Understanding how a strong self-image produces predictable, inevitable success. Now, my friends, once you begin reshaping your inner dialogue, once the voice inside you starts speaking strength instead of weakness, clarity instead of confusion, discipline instead of excuses, you will notice something remarkable, something powerful, something that almost feels like magic, but it isn't magic at all. It's simply cause and effect. Because here's a principle Jim Rohn lived by. Success is not something you pursue. Success is something you attract by the person you become. And that means once the identity changes, the results have no choice but to change with it. Let me walk you through this step by step so you see the logic clearly. 1. Identity creates behavior. When you truly see yourself as a disciplined person, you act like one. You don't negotiate with laziness. You don't bargain with excuses. You don't look for shortcuts. You simply behave in alignment with who you believe you are. And when you act like a disciplined person long enough, you become one. Identity, behavior. 2. Behavior creates habits. Now, when you repeat certain behaviors, reading daily, exercising daily, reflecting daily, those behaviors turn into systems, into patterns, into habits. A habit is simply a behavior that has gained enough repetition to become part of your identity's routine. And once a behavior becomes a habit, it becomes automatic. Identity, behavior, habits. 3. Habits create character. Character is nothing more than your habits assembled over time. The habit of honesty becomes the character of integrity. The habit of consistency becomes the character of discipline. The habit of learning becomes the character of wisdom. Most people want great character, but they want it without building great habits. But that's not how the game works. Identity, behavior, habits, character. 4. Character creates reputation. Now here's where it gets interesting. Once your character grows strong, the world begins to take notice. People trust you. People respect you. People want to work with you. People rely on you. People open doors for you. Reputation is simply how the world experiences your character. And opportunity always flows towards strong character. Identity, behavior, habits, character, reputation. 5. Reputation attracts opportunity. When people see your character, your reliability, your consistency, your discipline, they begin offering you chances they would never offer someone else. Promotions, partnerships, contracts, mentorships, resources, referrals. This is why Jim Rohn said, work harder on yourself than you do on your job, because the job is not what creates the opportunity. You are what creates the opportunity. Identity, behavior, habits, character, reputation, opportunity. 6. Opportunity creates success. And finally, when opportunity arrives at the door of someone, prepared someone with strong identity, strong habits, strong character, success follows. Not by luck, not by coincidence, not by charm, but by design. Success becomes predictable. Success becomes sustainable. Success becomes consistent. You no longer swing wildly between motivation and discouragement. You no longer rely on luck or timing. You no longer chase results, because identity is in alignment. And when identity is aligned, success is simply the natural consequence. Identity, behavior, habits, character, reputation, opportunity, success. That is the chain. That is the formula. That is the path. Now let me give you the emotional moment. The moment every great achiever eventually reaches. When you look at your life and you realize that you don't have to force success anymore. Success follows you because you followed discipline. You built a self-image that left success no choice. And now, with this chain firmly in your hands, it's time to bring everything home, time to tie this entire journey together with the final message of becoming the person success cannot ignore. Well, my friends, we've taken quite a journey together. From the foundation of identity, to the truth of awareness, to the architecture of design, through environment, discipline, inner dialogue, and the laws of becoming. And now, in this final stretch, I want to bring it home. I want to leave you with the message that has shaped everything I've taught for decades. If you want more, you must become more. That's the great secret. That's the great opportunity. That's the great responsibility. You don't get in life what you wish for. You don't get in life what you hope for. You don't even get in life what you dream about. You get in life what you become. Because success doesn't come to the person who wants it. It comes to the person who deserves it by the strength of their identity, the power of their habits, the clarity of their values, and the consistency of their discipline. Let me tell you something I've learned. Success is not a matter of luck. It's not a lottery. It's not something that falls on some and misses others. Success is the inevitable outcome of a person who has decided to lead themselves with intention. When you become valuable, opportunity has no choice. When you become disciplined, progress has no choice. When you become consistent, growth has no choice. When you become wiser, better, stronger, success has no choice but to respond. That's why I tell people, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Because when you become better, life becomes better. Not magically, not instantly, but predictably. Life adjusts to the level of the person you become. And that brings us to your mission moving forward. Lead yourself every day, every moment, every decision. Lead yourself when you feel motivated, and especially when you don't. Lead yourself when you feel optimistic and when you feel doubtful. Lead yourself when the path is clear and when the path is foggy. Lead yourself when life rewards you and when life challenges you. Because self-leadership is not an event, it is a lifestyle. And the day you commit to leading yourself first, the day you stop negotiating with your excuses, the day you decide to rise to your own standards, that day becomes the turning point of your entire life. After that, success is no longer something you chase. Success becomes something that follows you because you are walking step by step, thought by thought, discipline by discipline in the direction of purpose, character, and growth. Let me leave you with one final truth to carry with you. Life doesn't reward your intentions. Life rewards your execution. So execute the identity. Live the blueprint. Honor the standards. Strengthen the voice inside. And walk boldly into the future you have designed. And when you look back, months from now or years from now, you will say, that was the moment my life began to change. Not because life became easier, but because I became greater. Thank you, my friends. Your future is waiting on the other side of who you choose to become next.